Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan, and today I'm going to be reviewing the first book in the Hyperion Cantos, which is, of course, Hyperion. So this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so I will be talking about some of the characters, themes, concepts, structure, things like that, but I won't be giving away too much of the plot. So if you have read it before, let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't read it, I'll be letting you know what kind of readers this might appeal to, and let me know if you're interested in picking it up. So before I get into the review, I want to go over the series because I see a lot of questions about this online. The Fall of Hyperion, Endymion, the Rise of Endymion, they all follow Hyperion, but I would categorize them as two duologies. Hyperion and the Fall of Hyperion as book 1A and 1B, and Endymion and the Rise of Endymion book 2A and 2B. So if you're worried about committing to a full book series, I don't think you need to do that. If you're someone like me who does want a complete story, I think you are probably going to want to read Hyperion and the Fall of Hyperion, and then you can decide whether you want to go on to the next two. So let's get into the premise of Hyperion and what drew me to the book, as well as the cover. Hopefully it's making a nice looking green screen, but yeah, that cover, that's a pretty classic cover right there. The colors, the Shrike, he's a freaky looking dude. I wanted to learn more about him instantly. So anyway, what's going on in this book? So we're about 800 years in the future. The hegemony of man is able to travel to different planets using these things called farcasters, essentially teleporters, but we'll learn a bit more about them as things go on. And there are outer planets that don't have these, and you can travel to them by spaceship, but in doing so, you incur time debt due to time dilation. And one of those planets is Hyperion. And we have 7 different characters that are all on a pilgrimage to Hyperion. They each have a connection to it, each have a reason for going, and we learn those through getting into the structure now. Different stories. So this is told in a writing style similar to the Canterbury Tales. That's everyone, whenever you look up Hyperion, everyone says, oh, it's like the Canterbury Tales. And I'm like, that's cool. Haven't read it myself, but if you have and that means something to you, awesome. But essentially what we're going to get is a present timeline, which, to be honest, doesn't move forward that quickly. What we're really getting, the bulk of the book, is each of those characters explaining how they got there and what this pilgrimage to Hyperion means to them. So I'll go through each of those loosely. We're going to start with the priest's tale. Now, I'll be honest, guys, I wasn't sure. Like 30 pages into the book, I wasn't sure if I was on board with it, because the priest says, well, to tell my story, I have to tell someone else's story. And I'm like, wait, within 30 pages, we're already 2 timelines removed from the present timeline. Like, as someone that doesn't really care for flashbacks, but more so in TV and film, as a literary device, it doesn't bother me as much. But I thought, I don't know, it might be hard for me to get invested in this storyline, but boy was I proved wrong. The priest tale, once you meet the tribe on the planet, you learn more about something called the cruciform. Not going to explain what that is, but yeah, by the end of the tale, it blew me away. I knew I was on board for a ride. So moving on from the priest's tale to the soldier's tale. So each of the tales are going to give you something different. So that's something good about this book. If you like cyberpunk, horror, you're interested in hard sci-fi concepts, you're interested in more philosophical, religious discussion, there's going to be a story in here for you. So the soldier's tale, one of the more action-packed ones, deals with some great concept of moving through time. There's a mysterious female character that I really grew to be intrigued by. So keeping up the momentum with the soldier's tale. Then we move on to, cool thing about the, nah, you don't care about that. I believe the poet's tale is next, and Martin Silenus, however you pronounce it, one of my favorite characters because as a poet, as a writer, he's very eloquent, but he can also be very crude and blunt and to the point, quite humorous. this is definitely not a comedic book, but there's certain moments that are quite funny, and Martin provides a bunch of those. And his story kind of tells why he's inspired to write, why Hyperion inspires him to write, and you know, the connection of the character to the book itself I found quite intriguing. My dog is scratching me. That's all right. We'll power through. So after the Poet's Tale, I believe we have the Scholar's Tale. This one really hit emotionally for me. You have a Jewish professor whose daughter becomes sick. It's a unique kind of sickness. I believe it's called the Merlin sickness. And this was this might have been my favorite tale. This was an incredibly strong combination of sci-fi concepts with a personal story. This really hit me in the gut, and yeah, really displayed kind of the range of emotions that Dan Simmons as a writer can take you on. Then after the Scholar's Tale, we have, let me see, I rehearsed this. It is the Detective's Tale. Yes, Braun Lamia. So she's awesome. She is strong character, tough character, love her. This is kind of a cyberpunk noir detective tale. Deals with cybrids, which are not quite androids. They're human bodies, but they have an AI consciousness implanted in them. So there's a good mystery, some good action, some good AI concepts delved into here. Another really strong story. And then the Consul's Tale. The Consul his tale is actually not his own tale again. So at the start of the book, I didn't like this, but by the end of the book, Dan Simmons had earned my trust somewhat. And this kind of ties in the nature of terraforming and colonization of planets throughout space. There's kind of some ecological aspects, some strong aspects to do with family. I'll be honest though, while reading that, I was thinking, I don't know if you can see, but you know, I'm probably up to about here, and the tale starts, and I'm like, you guys, we haven't made all that much progression in the present timeline. By the time we wrap this up, not much is going to happen, is there? So, small spoiler in a way, but it's a spoiler I would want to have been told before I started the book, and I'm someone that hates spoilers, so I feel okay saying this, but there is not much of an ending. And when I say that, I don't mean it's open-ended or a cliffhanger. There's really no ending. This almost to me feels like backstory to the actual story. I feel I'm in the minority somewhat here, in that not everyone loved the Fall of Hyperion. A lot of people did. We'll get into that in the Fall of Hyperion review. But to me, that's where you will get more of the present timeline plot development. Whereas this one, it does feel kind of complete in that you complete an understanding of the characters. But in terms of I forgot to mention this, the trip to Hyperion, to the Time Tombs, to the Shrike, you're not going to get a lot of that in this book. You'll get hints, but you're not going to get a lot of it. So, my review, as you can tell, I'm pretty positive on it, and there were the few things that I maybe didn't love. I wouldn't say were objective. I don't know if you can really review any book objectively, but not objectively wrong. Is more just personal preference. Was not quite what I want in a book, but I think the world building absolutely fantastic. I think the characters absolutely fantastic. I think the range of sci-fi concepts and stories that you experience incredibly varied. It's tough to get bored reading this book. There's something in it for everyone, and it really tees up for a lot to happen in the Fall of Hyperion. Whether it delivers or not, I won't say now, but for now, I'm going to give Hyperion 8 out of 10. I think this is the book that could benefit on a reread for me, because my expectations would not be the same. So certain things that maybe bothered me or frustrated me or disappointed me on the first time around, I would maybe just be able to ignore and just enjoy it for what it is, what's going on in the book at the time. But I think it'll still be capped out at a 9. I don't know if I could give a book that doesn't have an ending a 10 out of 10. That's just me. But anyway, love the book. Hope you guys love it too. And we'll be following up with The Fall of Hyperion.